Good afternoon, everyone. The Luigi Mangione hearing is going on in Manhattan right now. Is this the whole case? Is this the case in a nutshell? And if the prosecution loses the evidence discovered by the Altoona police in that McDonald's in Altoona, PA, is the entire case endangered? The gun in the backpack that you see the person holding and shooting United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson cold-bloodedly on 54th Street in Manhattan on December 4th, 2024, shooting him in the back. That gun that matches the ballistics on the scene of that shooting was recovered in the backpack in Altoona, PA, that belonged to Luigi Mangione, as well as much other evidence. The manifesto that Luigi Mangione outlined what his intentions were. And as we show all this evidence, the license under the name of Mark Rosario that Luigi Mangione used to gain access to the hostel on West 101st Street and Amsterdam Avenue in Manhattan, so that Luigi could stay there and use that as a base for his intended evil deeds that he was going to do. So prosecutors say they have the murder weapon, a chilling manifesto, a trail of aliases that all point directly to one man, Luigi Mangione. It looks like a slam dunk, but the entire case is now hanging by a single thread. Was the search that uncovered all of this evidence illegal? If the judge agrees, a mountain of evidence could vanish, forcing everyone to ask, how could they possibly prove their case now? Is it really that simple? Is this case absolutely is not simple. There's a ton of evidence, right? And this case, at some point, will be delivered right into the hands of the judge, who will make decisions on suppressing evidence or allowing evidence in according to what he believes. And case law, previous case law, which establishes precedent. And we at the Police Off the Cuff podcast, from a police perspective, have said numerous times that we believed that a warrant was not necessary for the search at the scene in the McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And the reason for that is something called stop, question, and frisk. And the officers were brought to the scene of that McDonald's by a 911 call, telling them that they believed that the shooter of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, the shooter is on the scene, they believed, in McDonald's. It looks just like him. So at the very least, at that very point, the police had something we would call reasonable suspicion. And we went all over stop, question, and frisk, and the three levels of the rungs of the ladder of suspicion. The first rung, mere suspicion, really allows you just to go up and speak to someone. The second rung is reasonable suspicion, which allows a police officer to stop, question, and frisk. And the third rung, which is probable cause, which is the arrest phase of this type of encounter. The press and many attorneys are not mentioning anything about stop, question, and frisk. They're just going right to the fact that the officers should have gotten a warrant. I don't believe that is true. And again, I don't practice law. I have 27 years on the NYPD, and there was never been in a case even like this where we would have applied for a warrant when on the scene we would have stop, question, and frisk and reasonable suspicion. And at that point, we recovered something that was illegal in itself, and in this case, a firearm, among other evidence. And at that point, the firearm gives us probable cause, which is the arrest phase of the stop. So, folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones, hold on to your thoughts, hold on to your service dog, hold on to your wig. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off the cuff zone, the police off the cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
So will these legal decisions made by the judge in this case carry so much weight that it could actually determine guilt or innocence in this case? Let's play this little snippet here.
Care CEO Brian Thompson, as the accused killer's pretrial hearing enters a second week. Taking the stand Monday, Christy Wasser, one of the police officers who searched his backpack in Altoona, Pennsylvania, the morning he was arrested. Body cam footage shown in court revealing what she pulled out of the bag, including a fully loaded magazine clip, wrapped, Wasser said, in wet gray underwear. Officer Wasser also discovered what prosecutors called a Faraday bag, designed to block electromagnetic signals like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, that contained a cell phone, debit cards, and a passport. There was also a red notebook, a handwritten checklist dated the day after the shooting, reminding him to change his hat, pluck his eyebrows, and take the bus to Penn Station, as well as a map showing cities including Pittsburgh, Toledo, Cincinnati, and St. Louis, described by the prosecution as possible escape routes.
The fact that he's handwriting out is his steps, putting maps together on paper. This is someone who's looking to stay off the grid at some point and to keep from having to go onto a web browser.
The defense wants everything found in the backpack tossed out, arguing it was all obtained during an illegal warrantless search. Prosecutors say it was justified because officers were concerned about safety. Officer Wasser testifying she was worried there might be a bomb in the bag. But during cross-examination, the defense questioning whether she really thought there was danger, asking, "Did you clear the McDonald's?" Wasser responded, "No."
Also on that handwritten note found in the backpack, a message that read, "Keep momentum, FBI slower overnight." Now, the hearing continues today. It's expected to last until the end of the week, maybe even into next week. Craig?
Stephanie. So, again, danger? Well, reasonable suspicion they had that he was the shooter from the shooting of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, and he was on the run. And what did he use in this shooting? He used a firearm. So would it make sense that the officers that approached would be suspicious? Would that make any sense? Would that not suspicious? They would be in fear that he had a gun, and the gun was in the backpack. The backpack was in his lungeable area, which in the law, if it's within his lungeable area, he can gain access to it. He could shoot a police officer. So they were very within their training, within the scope of their employment, within their experience as police officers, had every right to fear this person could shoot at them because he used a firearm. And he was wearing the same clothes. He fit the same description of the shooter, of Brian Thompson. So why would you stop and get a search warrant when you had what we would call stop, question, and frisk? And during this stop, question, and frisk, they recovered a firearm. That puts him right away under arrest. They have probable cause. The 911 call by itself gave them reasonable suspicion, almost close to probable cause. Once they searched the backpack, which was within his lungeable area, and discovered all the evidence that they discovered, I think that this was a totally good stop. And I think that to say that they should have stopped what they were doing and got a search warrant, that's ridiculous. Now, the defense was saying the officers feared that could have been a bomb in that. And then they questioned the officer, did you clear the McDonald's? If they would have applied for a search warrant, would they have cleared the McDonald's? I wonder if that same question would have been asked by the defense then. This is from CBS News in New York.
Trial hearing continues. He's accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson last year. His defense team is arguing to keep evidence from his arrest out of his murder trial. To help us break down what is going on in court is legal analyst Richard Schoenstein. Good to talk to you. And yesterday we learned more about Mangione's arrest from the officers who were there. There's debate about whether a warrant was needed to search that backpack. What are both sides arguing here?
Good morning, Mary. It's a year after the search of this backpack, and we have heard so much detail about it. So the prosecution has said, generally speaking, that there was a concern that there might be a bomb or a weapon in the bag, and there was some exigency to searching it. And the defense is saying it was too soon and it was without a warrant. And I have to say, based on the evidence we've heard the past few days, this is a closer issue than I thought it would be. The excuse that there may have been a weapon or bomb in the bag is problematic because the officer has now said she didn't clear the McDonald's. She didn't call the bomb squad. She just stuck her hand in the bag and started roaming around to see if there was a bomb. That doesn't seem like someone who generally was concerned there was a bomb in the bag. So I think there is a potential problem here for the prosecution.
So you believe there is a chance the evidence from the backpack could be thrown out?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. Listen, there's still the argument that it was incident to an arrest. There's still the argument that eventually they did procure a warrant. There's still a probable cause argument. So I think the prosecution has other ways around this. It's going to be closer than I thought it would be, though, and it's going to come down to the legal arguments around the Constitution.
Now, we learned that officers questioned Mangione for more than 20 minutes before they told him he had the right to remain silent. Why is that important? How crucial are those 20 minutes?
So I don't think those 20 minutes are that crucial because I don't think there's that much he said in those 20 minutes that the prosecutors want to use. What I understand they want to use is the fact that he gave a false identification when he was first questioned. And I think that probably can come in. If they just walked up to the guy and said, "What's your name?" and he gave him a fake name before he was Mirandized, I think that's fair game. I do think 20 minutes was too long to go without giving him his Miranda rights. He said at one point he didn't want to answer questions, and the police way earlier than 20 minutes thought he was the guy, but I don't think there's any critical statements from the defendant in that 20-minute period. I don't think that's going to hurt the prosecution very much.
All right, legal analyst Richard Schoenstein, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us today. We appreciate it.
So, again, this is the first attorney who I've heard on any network acknowledge the fact that this could have been a search incidental to a lawful arrest, which is what the prosecution is going to say. It seems that all the talking heads, all the defense attorneys that are analyzing this stop, they're segueing to the exceptions to a search warrant, And one of the exceptions, of course, is exigency, which simply means emergency. But it never got to the point where they were applying for a search warrant. So why are they all going right to the search warrant thing? Clearly, the officers felt that there was no need for a search warrant. And then when we also go to Miranda, and we have done several shows about this, in custody plus interrogation equals Miranda. Even if Mangione said to the officers, "I don't want to answer questions," what does that mean? That doesn't give him a right. He could stop answering questions, but he didn't say the word, "I want an attorney." He never said that. So that doesn't automatically, if he says, "I don't want to answer questions," that doesn't automatically give him a right to counsel there. He only said, I don't want to answer questions. All right. I'm going to still ask questions. You cannot answer them. But so all of these are absolutely legal issues. But again, this is a closer call than maybe I'm saying, and it's a closer call than all the defense attorneys who have been on all of these stations, talking heads immediately going against the police saying, oh, there's no way there was any danger. There was danger. He had a firearm in that bag. If he wanted to shoot a police officer, he had access to a firearm. So I agree with them saying, oh, she thought there was a bomb in there. I certainly wouldn't put my hand inside a bag if I thought there was a bomb in there. But that wasn't the argument. Really, the argument should have been on for the prosecution and for this officer. No, I believed he was the shooter of Brian Thompson. And I wanted to check the bag, see if there was a firearm, because if there was a firearm in there and it turned out there was one, that puts me in danger. And so a judge will have to decide what's credible in regards to what the officer said. How did the officer really feel? Was she fearful for her life because she felt that this person was indeed Luigi Mangione, and this person was a threat to the officers on the scene? And apparently when they did ask him for identification, he displayed this license with the name Mark Rosario, the same name, that he registered at the hostel in Manhattan on West 101st Street and Amsterdam Avenue. He used that identification to gain access to that hostel. If the officers from Pennsylvania knew that, just displaying that false ID, you're under arrest. You're in possession of a forged instrument, and you're displaying and you're using that to identify yourself. Boom, he's under arrest. They have probable cause immediately upon him showing that identification, if they knew that at the time of the stop. This is from
of Luigi Mangione. He's accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The suspect's pretrial hearing continues today. Now, last night, prosecutors released more evidence that they seized from Mangione, who has pleaded not guilty in this case. Lilia Luciano is covering the hearing for us. Lilia, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gail. In court, prosecutors played body cam footage showing that moment when police discovered a loaded gun magazine inside his backpack at a Pennsylvania McDonald's. While those moments were playing out, I noticed Mangione was looking down. I couldn't tell if he was taking notes or avoiding the screen. Altoona police officer Christy Wasser took the stand on Monday, recalling her search of Luigi Mangione's backpack on December 9th, 2024, starting, she said, immediately after his arrest. Body cam footage played in court showed the moment Wasser discovered a loaded gun magazine wrapped inside what she said was a pair of wet underwear in Mangione's backpack. Officers can be heard in the background saying, quote, "It's effing him 100%. Later, one officer asks whether they need a search warrant. A superior answers, "We don't need one." Wasser told the court it's protocol to search a suspect's property for potentially dangerous items. The defense is pushing to exclude some of the evidence collected from Mangione's backpack, claiming police questioned and searched his belongings without a warrant and before reading his Miranda rights. CBS News legal contributor Caroline Polisi.
If the police officers legitimately and in good faith believe that there's a substantial risk to themselves or the general public, they have every right, every constitutional right to go into that backpack and conduct a warrantless search.
After a brief search, video showed the bag.
This is the first attorney I have seen as a talking head on these shows to agree with the position of the police vis-a-vis the prosecution. Every one of them has jumped to the search warrant thing. So I applaud CBS News for having a attorney who's at least giving the correct legal background to this and what the rights of the law officer is in a stop, question, and frisk situation. And she hit it right on the head. Back to CBS News.
Being taken to the Altoona police station, where it was searched again. There, Officer Wasser found a gun.
Last night, prosecutors released these photos showing the items in his backpack, including a 9mm handgun and silencer, as well as a red notebook, passport, and ID, and several handwritten notes. One of them described what appeared to be a map of Pittsburgh with possible escape routes. Another note read, "Keep momentum, FBI slower overnight." And another note, dated the day after the shooting, read, "Buy black shoes and pluck eyebrows."
This is a crucial motion for the defense because if they can keep that evidence out, that is a huge win for them.
We all notice the eyebrows. Mangione is due back in court this morning, exactly 1 year after his arrest.
So it's interesting. This is interesting. At least one of the news stations has been a little more open-minded than all of them just jumping to the conclusion, yes, they needed a search warrant. They didn't get a... They don't. They didn't need a search warrant because this is the first time I've heard a talking head attorney say, no, this is search incidental to lawful arrest. And if the officers acted in good faith, there was a danger there. And so the search was legit. This is the first time I'm hearing that. Congratulations to CBS News for putting this out there. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. If you like real crime, true crime, you're in the right place. If you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the like button. Share us with your friends and your family. If you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels. We also have a YouTube channel membership with 5 different levels. And you can become part of the Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories family. And now a word from our sponsor. FanDuel's got an offer you don't want to miss this NFL season. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style. FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? You must be 21 years or older and present in select states for Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbookfanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE New York or text HOPE New York in New York. This is an earlier video from CBS News in regards to pictures of the evidence that was found inside Luigi Mangione's backpack. Let's play a little bit of this, folks.
To be damp underwear, Errol. They decide that they're going to bring this back to the station. And you actually hear someone in the background saying that it's 100% him, referring to the New York shooter that they know the police have been looking for around the country. But it's been very revealing to see how all of that unfolded. Honestly, a lot of the search ends up looking rather haphazard, Errol. When they're back at the station, they're not necessarily writing down each item, cataloging it. And something the defense flagged is that as soon as she got to the station, she unzipped a pocket, and that's when they found the gun. The defense questioned why it was that moment and tried to insinuate that she actually searched in that bag as she was driving from the McDonald's to the station because it just came to light then. So a lot of questions being raised and a lot of scrutiny about what happened that day.
And it could have a major implication on evidence included or excluded. Fascinating to listen to what unfolded there. Katrina, thank you so much.
So interesting. Look, this case is absolutely interesting. And absolutely, there were some legal issues here. I believe that the judge who decides this case will give a little and take a little. I don't believe he's going to exclude all of this evidence from the prosecution, but I also don't believe he's going to suppress everything that the defense wants. So Judge Caro's decision will send the case down one of two dramatically different roads. Path A is that the judge rules the search was lawful. He might agree with the prosecution that this was a justifiable part of a lawful arrest. He might agree with the prosecution that officers were concerned for their safety. If he rules the evidence is admissible, the prosecution gets to present its full case. They'll show the jury the 3D printed gun, tell them it matches the shell casings, and read from the notebook that allegedly details Mangione's anti-insurance industry motive. With the full weight of the physical evidence, the forensic links and surveillance footage, the defense would face a massive uphill battle. But Path B, Judge Caro agrees with the defense that the search violated the Fourth Amendment. He could suppress the evidence. The gun, the notebook, the fake ID, the to-do list, all of it could be deemed fruit of the poisonous tree and be thrown out. What would be left? The prosecution would still have surveillance video that allegedly shows Mangione before and after the shooting, plus DNA and fingerprint evidence from near the crime scene. But is that enough for a conviction without the alleged murder weapon and the notebook that provides a motive? Losing the contents of the backpack would undeniably weaken the story prosecutors want to tell, turning their case from one of premeditated murder with a clear motive into something far more circumstantial and difficult to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Making this decision even more unpredictable is Judge Caro's track record in this very case. In September 2025, he already handed the defense a huge victory by dismissing 2 terrorism-related murder charges against Mangione. He ruled that the evidence was legally insufficient to prove Mangione intended to coerce or intimidate the general public as terrorism law requires. This shows that Judge Caro isn't afraid to make bold rulings that go against the prosecution and that he meticulously scrutinizes the law. His willingness to dismiss those top charges suggests he will give the defense's constitutional arguments a very serious look. The suppression hearings are still ongoing, but the tension is obvious. The fate of one of the most watched cases in recent history rests not on a question of guilt or innocence, but on the legality of a search in Pennsylvania McDonald's. So, interesting, very, very interesting. And this case plays out on television and plays out in the media, and it seems almost all of the talking head people that were the attorneys for the networks were all jumping on the side of the police should have got a search warrant. And that's where we, the Police Off the Cuff podcast, disagree. We believe that this was an arrest situation, and the police have search incidental to lawful arrest. And the evidence that was recovered in the search incidental to lawful arrest is therefore fair game, all good, and should be kept in by the judge. And the prosecution should be allowed to present this evidence when they present this case for trial. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Have a great night, everyone. God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.